Okay, so this is going to be a really interesting episode. I'm talking to Diogène, who's an enterprise resource planning expert. With everything that's going on with COVID-19 and the pandemic, he's someone that you really need to talk to, and we're going to learn a lot about enterprise resource planning and how it relates to incidents and things along this line. So grab a coffee, grab a tea. This is going to be a long episode, so let's hack at it. Hey, Diogène, thank you so much for coming to my DailyCyber Podcast and coming out to provide your expertise and your knowledge. How's your day going so far?
The day is going well. Here in Montreal, and thanks very much, Brendan, for inviting me. It's an honor.
Oh, you're so welcome. So tell me a little bit about yourself when it comes to enterprise resource planning, and because I know I got a lot of people that are watching are jumping into cybersecurity business planning. Tell me a little bit about what you do and how you got into this.
Yeah, so ERP, so Enterprise Resource Planning. I will first talk about a little bit of my story, and via that I will explain what is an ERP. So first of all, yes, I'm Diogène Ntirandekura. I'm in Canada right now, in Montreal, but I'm born and I grew up in Belgium. And that's also where I started my career and my IT career. And we talk about 2007, so about 13 years now. I started as an SAP consultant for IBM in Belgium. So IBM is pretty famous. SAP is pretty famous amongst the very big companies. But what is an ERP? Basically, when we talk about enterprise resource planning, I think the key word is resource. And in a company, you have different types of resource.
Mm-hmm.
You have financial resource, human resources. You have your inventory, your physical inventory, your stock. That's resources as well. You have everything related to sales and your clients. And that is a little bit how the SAP software is set up. It is set up it's traditionally set up in modules, and those modules represent different functions in a company.
Okay.
And the way I started my career, because I had a background more in business rather than in IT, what I was doing, and that's very much related to cybersecurity, at the start of my career, I was doing data migration.
Okay.
So converting and transferring data from one system to another, or creating data from scratch. And from those data, you have to from those data, whether those data are master data or transactional data, you have what you call the security access, security profiles that are set up, that will define inside your company what type of roles and what type of which departments can access a certain set of data, whether
Okay.
it is in a creation mode, display mode, or change mode.
Right.
All of that is pretty much regulated and configured.
Okay.
But myself, who we are talking to right now, is a functional consultant, and a functional consultant is more related to the business functions of a company, meaning purchasing, inventory, sales and distribution, finance, etc., customer service.
Okay.
And my specialties are more with materials management, so the inventory and purchasing part, as well as customer service and plant maintenance.
Okay.
I think I went a bit on ERP more than my story.
No, and that's good. It's good to kind of get your history now and how you got into it and kind of how you evolved into it. Now, your current role and what you do, how much of cybersecurity and security is involved in what you do, day in and day out?
To explain that, I will have to just mention a little bit the different components that you have in an ERP implementation project, and security is one of those components.
For sure.
So you usually have your basically the project manager or the project management team. You have the functional consultants that are more on the business solution, so they make the link between the business requirements and the technology.
Okay.
You have developers that literally code. They do the coding, they do programs to enable business functions to operate.
Mhm.
You have people in data conversion, and then you also have administration and security. By administration, maybe the best word is the network people that are managing the network. In the past,
So
most
network
projects,
administrators, is that what you?
yes,
Yeah.
network administrators.
Okay.
Yeah, in the past, most projects were more, on premise. So you have a networking team that start to be built,
For sure.
and working side by side with them.
Yeah.
You have the security consultant. So in the SAP world, you really have people that are specialists in SAP security,
Okay.
and it's a whole module, and this is something that you configure and that you code. So how I was related to the security, to cyber security, it was mostly related to what type of roles can, as I said, can view, can display, can create, can change some transactions or some data. This is where the main link was made with cyber security.
Okay.
The other that's my link. Then on the other side, you have a part of this network administration team. They would work on putting up firewall, making sure that data that are exchanged between the ERP, so in this case SAP and other interfaces, it does not come with as well some malware or stuff like that.
Right.
There is also one point that is important. Yes, is and now it is more important even with the COVID-19.
Yeah.
Is that you want to also organize, compartmentalize the access to data and to systems according to the location of the person.
Okay. So
But
let's talk
now,
about that. I mean, that you brought up the COVID-19 pandemic, with the ERP planning and all that, how's it affecting kind of what you're dealing with day in and day out now?
The first effect, and I think it's not limited to the ERP industry, is the fact that more work has to be done remotely or from home.
Right.
And usually some work was already done remotely, but usually for a functional consultant, you're usually spending a lot of time face to face with the clients. But now I think clients and consulting companies have to consider doing more and more work from home and use those modern tools that we have today, like your Zoom, your Microsoft Teams, your Skype, whatever, to be able to exchange with the client, taking their requirements and trying to deliver solutions.
Right.
The other thing, and I think it's making the work of from a cybersecurity perspective, the work is getting more and more complex. Is that you had companies, even huge companies or huge organizations, where everybody was working on site.
Right.
So when you talk about security, you only think about what is on site,
Right.
and you also work with your own device.
Right.
Meaning the client has his own laptops or his own desktops, and that's where they manage all the security. But right now, some clients now they are forced to provide their equipment to their employees or to their consultants, and those employees and consultants are going at home with it.
Right.
It opens up a box of maybe it could be a box of maybe some bad surprises. So what do they do? Usually what do they do is that they put in place clear policies about working remotely, and they also put in place clear policies about data or information security management, good practices.
Okay.
What you can what can you literally what can you leave on your table, what can you show or what can you not show? Can you sign that? Do you sign that you will take care as a, how can I say that, in good faith about the information that we have, because when you're out of the premises, we have to rely on trusting you, basically.
Right. So
Because
what you're basically saying, just to kind of reiterate, so someone's listening to this, is that now because of COVID-19, the dynamics of the companies have changed, where now data, not just internally into the company, now has access remotely to users that didn't have access remotely for before. And now they're not just taking the data, they're actually taking resources like computers, laptops, smart devices, whatever that may be, off premises, when before the policies used to be, a lot of these were on-prem, right? It was stuff you come into work and was there, you don't really take it home. But now, because we're having separation and isolation and all that to decrease the curve of COVID-19, now they're saying everyone should be working from home. Not people should be going to work and being isolated in its environment. But like you said, the dynamics are changing now that, well, if you're HR, your finance, your IT, your production, manufacturing, whatever that may be, you're mostly working from home now with a computer that might not have security policies. You now have an information security package saying, here's our acceptable use policy. You can't share this. You can't share this information while at home because it's confidential. And now you're responsible because you might have the laptop on your kitchen table with family around, right? So it's really changing the dynamics.
Yes, it is changing the dynamic. And the thing that you mentioned, usually a good practice will be to do that, to provide those information and get the employee or the consultant to sign those data protection policies before they have the documents. So, for example, I say the document, but also the devices. And also, one thing that is pretty much common in the industry is the use of RSA key. Things like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if people see that.
Yeah.
But,
what you're holding up, if you guys are listening to the audio, you're basically holding up a security key that, has, encryption on it, or has a private or public key, or it'd probably be a public key on your side, right?
Yeah.
Right. That creates a security key that when you plug it in, it synchronizes with the private key to make sure the authentication is valid.
Exactly.
And that's what you're holding up, just to kind of, people are listening to this through audio, and that's what you're holding up to kind of show.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point. Like a lot of the people working from home. Now, talking about that, some companies don't have enough public and private keys to give out, right? Because these employees weren't designated to be remote users. They only designated so many licenses to have, and I'm just using round numbers. Say there was only 200 employees that are supposed to be remote out of 750. Now they have to figure all this out. Like, do they increase the license? Do they do all that? Because now 95% of their workforce is working from remote or at home.
From remote, yes. And maybe one of the, for a company that don't have, whatever, the budget or the logistics just to have hundreds of security keys, one of the things that I have seen as well is the ability to connect to what we call a remote desktop.
Right.
So the company does not provide you a laptop. You use actually your own laptop, but from that laptop, you still have to go to a certain URL, enter your information to enter in their network, and it creates a connection to we call a remote desktop
or remote session, right?
Yeah, remote sessions, and everything that you do within that remote session is like you haven't done it from home. You have done it like from their premises.
Right.
That's also one way to.
But then you run into the challenges from a security standpoint. Do they have antivirus? Do they have anti-malware on their desktop that they're using? Because if they don't, now they've created a direct tunnel right into that desktop that is maybe Citrix or whatever that may be. It's a virtual session, but if that person's connected and that malware gets through, they literally let that person walk right through.
Yes, you're totally right. And this is why bigger organizations that have the budget for it, they prefer to provide you with their own devices.
Right.
Because then they can control which software do you download inside the device.
Right.
But they cannot tell you if you are using your own laptop. They cannot forbid you to download whatever. That's the problem, indeed.
Exactly. Like, I'll use an example. They can't be on, maybe it's on a work PC, and the work PC has acceptable use policy that you can't be on social media, right? You can't play games off of social media, right? Because a lot of times we know that sometimes there's malware in some of these games, but if it's your home computer, you could play Candy Crush or whatever on your home PC. They can't restrict that. Well, if Candy Crush has malware and you download it because you're clicking on stuff or you click on a banner, all of a sudden that's in your system and you connect to the company network, well, you just open the door for malware to go right in through the company network. Now, hopefully, most companies are big enough that they have, tools in place, endpoint detection, even in network detection response units that all of a sudden detects that and then shuts it down. But some companies, because this is such fast transition, don't have those in place yet or are working towards that because, where we were told, okay, now you need to, people can't go to work. It's like, oh my God, like go, right?
Yes, I agree. And I literally lived that earlier this month with the current client that I have. It was they were planning to have to work remote to enable their employees to work remotely, but then it just became by law that people have to work remotely.
Right.
So they had to go fast to get all the equipment required, get us to sign to sign the documents that say that we will protect the data and protect the devices as well from others. And that's something that that's something that is changing right now in the industry for sure.
Okay. So now with COVID-19 and kind of the pandemic, what are you seeing on a business side? Like, you go in, you consult, you work with these companies, but what are you seeing some of the concerns on a business side?
The overall concern, I think, and right now we are in the end of March, so we are in the middle of the crisis right now. The main concern is for how long business has to be put on hold, or
Right.
at least has to be slowed down. But now, if I want to give an answer that is more specific to my industry, so the ERP the ERP industry, the concerns that I see is that first, projects are either cancelled or
Okay.
either put on hold, or they are completely stopped.
Okay.
And now for consultants, and I'm lucky. I haven't had that right now, but now for consultants, it's about, okay, when can I get a new client, but also how should I work with my next client?
Right.
Should I keep going on premise, and should I be vulnerable to that type of crisis? Maybe how can I reskill? Not necessarily reskill in terms of hard skill, but can I deliver my hard skill in another way?
Right. So it's really making you think about now your business systems and deliverables is now opened up to changing your mindset of how you're going to deliver your service and product.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Do I really have to be on site
Right.
to deliver my project? Do I have to depend on one client? So one thing that happens a lot, unless you have you have a business with whatever 5, 10, 15 or more employees, you can handle a lot of clients.
Right.
But in the world of the bigger companies, a lot of time you have consultants that are stuck or married with one client for a while.
Right.
But should they continue like that? Because now between consultants, because I get in touch with some other consultant from Montreal and other places, it's like, okay, yeah, my project stopped, or my project is cancelled. Can I get onto another one, etc.? But should we keep working only for one client? That's I think that's an important thing to think about.
Well, coming from someone that has kind of a business background myself, I think it comes down to what you deliver on your product and service, giving the best quality and value. If you can only work with one client and deliver that service that you deserve to deliver, then perfect. If you can do that against 5 clients, perfect. But if you start to see you get on one, you get on a second, and then your quality deteriorates, then you have to look at how much can you withstand in your bandwidth, and then you have to look at, is your business made to grow? Have you set yourself up now that you need junior ERP consultants underneath you to do some of the junior work while you do more of the senior level work? And it's just how evolution of business goes for consultants, things like that, is how far do you want to grow? Second is that a lot of business owners don't think about their finances, right? The financial and their finances, and they don't look at long term and looking at how to put money away. So a lot of guys that I'm talking about in the last podcast, we had I had a panel of an insurance broker, a financial advisor, a PhD doctor, as well as an osteopath. And what happened was we were talking to the financial advisor, and the level of debt that's out there right now is scary. And people that live either paycheck to paycheck or month to month, because of this pandemic, is now shining a light on that. They're realizing, oh my God, like I don't have, money behind me. And if you read any financial books on financial, financial maturity, financial health, they talk about having at least 6 months to 1 year, behind you of salary or income. Well, if you're a consultant, right, like you're talking about, if you're not saving that behind you and you don't put that into your rates, that you're putting away a percentage of your income, of your either, biweekly or your consultant fees if you get paid monthly, if you're not putting that away, you're not budgeting yourself off, you're not, providing your value to the client and to yourself. And then yes, you're going to get stuck where you, like you said, where people go, and consultants have this all the time, is where you might go 3 months to 6 months without having a client because the economy is a little changed, clients are not looking for, and maybe even just yearly where, you come up on, you're finishing September, maybe October, maybe that time of the year, people are slowing down, Christmas parties, things like that. They're not doing as much projects. So then you have to wait till January, February, where everything starts to pick up. New year, everyone's doing their roadmaps, and boom, everyone's starting to go. Well, now you have 3 months of not making money. So these are things that consultants need to think about.
Yeah, and you bring up a huge point in the start of your answer is do you put yourself up do you put your business up in a way that it can scale,
right?
And do you think as a contractor, as a subcontractor, or do you think as a business owner,
right?
Even if you're a business owner of a company of one? So normally you would, if you think as a business owner, you go out of the living paycheck to paycheck mindset. So
right.
What you can be is that you can be a contractor but still have that paycheck to paycheck mindset, meaning that when your revenue increase, your lifestyle increase,
right?
And you still have, and then as soon as there is a crisis, you're like, oh my God, what will I do next month?
Right.
So normally you try to make sure, because we don't have, notoriously, IT consultants don't have huge costs. So you try to save as much as you can, both for to reinvest in the business as well as for your personal life.
So
and
hold on,
yep.
Let's talk about, you say IT consultants don't have huge costs. Can you clarify that?
Yeah. So I will put a real boundaries in what I said. So I mean, solo IT consultants.
Right.
They don't, in general, they don't have a huge cost of doing business or of setting up the business. Why?
Okay.
Because most solo consultants don't really have a big office, don't have huge equipment, and their main asset is their brain.
Right.
It's not a certain machine, or it's usually their brain that they and their expertise,
right.
that they sell then to clients. But to be honest, there is not only the brain and the expertise. If you want to go far, I think that your reputation, your voice, the way you help your clients, the way you contribute to your audience, your sales process, are all factors that will make you more successful than others.
Right.
But if I take in average, an IT consultant doesn't have a huge cost of doing business comparatively to other industries.
Right. And I think I want to clarify that just for people, because I'm sure the debate would be, but I have to pay for certifications. I have to pay for training. Right. And I mean, and I'm saying, like, just that's the debate, because, and don't get me wrong, as you know, some certifications are like $5,000 to $10,000, right? That you have to go to. So there's a cost to it. But like you said, in relation to running a full-time business with employees, HR, having an office, paying for hydro, I totally agree. I would just stipulate that, when it comes to IT consultants, there's a cost to being an IT consultant as well. And I mean, there's a percentage that you have to pay out, but in relative terms, like you're saying, compared to running a full-time business, right, and having
Yeah,
staff and so forth, right? And I agree with that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, indeed, and to the point of thinking as a business owner rather than a consultant is the type of switch that I am making myself. So three years ago, so as I said, I started in 2007 my career as an SAP consultant, and 3 years ago I decided to go on my own. I actually directly branded myself, my company of one, ERP Happy. So the idea of that is that you have a lot of consulting companies that have the words like solutions, services, advice, etc.
Right.
And I wanted to connect a word that is supposedly boring with a positive emotion.
Okay.
With ERP Happy, so the type of change that I want to bring in the industry is the fact that in a lot of ERP projects, you have afterwards the users that, for various reasons, there is no finger to point, but you have users that complain about the use of the new software. We cannot understand it. There is no documentation. The language is we don't know which language it is, etc.
Right.
And what I want to what I want to bring to ERP implementation and ERP support is making sure that in ERP implementation projects we don't only take the point of view of the expert that is bringing the perfect solution, but also the marriage with the process, documentation and execution, as well as the people aspect. So process, systems, and people.
Okay.
So by the people aspect, we talk about the change management, making sure that the training is properly done. And also what I want to bring with ERP Happy is the fact that a company does not necessarily know from the start that they have to choose only between one or two ERPs. But what they must have is making sure that their business requirements are properly defined.
Okay.
And as long as the business requirements are properly defined, from there an ERP selection can go, but it will go from a how can I say that, from a sound basis. So
Right.
what I saw very often is that a company is in love with an ERP that is trendy, but they notice long after the project has already started, or even after that it was implemented, that some of the key functions or the key aspects of the solutions are actually not covered.
So
That's
now,
something
shouldn't
that
that
is
be
very
done in kind of a post testing? Like you're talking about ERP project and so forth. That like if they're not happy with this, shouldn't they've done like some sort of test or
Yes, but it's I would say in the world of small and medium businesses, there is maybe more agility to change while the project is already started. But as you said, testing usually, and I'm talking about ERP project, but
Yeah.
testing usually happens pretty far down the road in a project. You have already spent a lot of money. You have already put a lot of resources into executing the project, and usually you have 1, 2, 3 people, maybe the CIO, another sponsor of the project, and maybe the CEO that maybe risk their job if we don't go at the end. So maybe yes, you notice that there is an issue of compatibility between the solutions and the requirements, but then you try to as a business you try to mitigate it, because stopping the project sometimes at some point it can become very, very costly.
Okay. Okay. And that makes sense. I mean, because we do it, and I was trying to think of the word, but it's called proof of concept, right? When it comes to cybersecurity,
Ah,
right? We do a proof of concept before the project starts, right? They test the technology, they test the solution to see if it works in their environment with their own technology, with their own infrastructure. And then a project's laid out of, purchasing, procurement, implementation, policies, procedures, kind of all that stuff, right? So I wanted to know if that's kind of the same sort of.
You're right. So you usually, yes, you have your company, a client company, and you have a consulting company,
Yeah.
and when they are hesitating between whichever software, or they know which software they want, but they hesitate with whichever consulting company they will work. Usually what happens is that you have demonstration. Those demonstration are proof of concept that are made based on the information that has been received from the client. So you're right, a proof of concept happens even maybe before the project the project has started. Sometimes it helps the client to make a decision,
Right.
or it happens just at the start of the project. Then the
Right.
contract is already signed, so maybe it's another situation.
Right.
Yeah.
So now let's go back to you called your company ERP Happy, and you said it was kind of emotional based. Now, am I supposed to, as a client, and people that are watching this may be interested in working with you? Is it more of this? You said the emotion. Is it more of me feeling happy working with you because you understand my business, you understand kind of what's going on, and I should feel happy about working with you in the sense that everything's gonna be done correctly? Is that my understanding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's there is the experience aspect in the word happy, as you said.
Yeah.
So being happy of collaborating with me, collaborating with us. That's for sure. There is that part in which what we what we try to what we try to do is to have you have the normal steps that happens in an ERP implementation project,
Okay.
and sometimes some contracts are pretty big. It's a multi millions project that cost in the tens of millions of dollars, euros, or whatever. But with us, what we try to do is we try to put gates during the project, gates of approval, gates of validation from the client,
Okay.
by which we ask, okay, are you still happy to work to work with us?
Okay.
And we can continue, or we can decide to do something else, either maybe stop or reduce our involvement, etc. So there is the aspect of the indeed the employees, as I was mentioning, and the aspect of the experience of working with us,
Okay.
in which we try to have those happiness gates.
Now, what type of organizations do you normally work with? Is there a certain sector that you work with, or do you work right across the board of all sectors, all verticals?
Yeah, very good question. So in industry wise, it has been pretty wide. There
Okay.
has been in my career, I've worked in companies that are in oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, professional services,
Right.
transportation, public organizations, etc.
Okay.
With the company that I created 3 years ago, I'm targeting more like small and medium businesses.
Okay.
Um,
Now, why is
industry
that?
wide.
Why is that? Why are you focusing small and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah. I was going there.
Yeah.
Uh, that's where I can have more influence into the decision making process, key decision making process. So as I was talking before, maybe the selection of which ERP will be used, the implementation methodology. Just in general, you have a bigger impact and a bigger influence when there are less decision making levels, decision making layers
Okay.
inside the project and inside the organization of the client. The other aspect is also implementation time, so implementation duration. When
Okay.
you work with huge organizations, I've made project that can last for 2, 3, 4 years. Does
Right.
not mean that I am myself on the project for during all that time, but there are projects that last for years, and
Right.
there is that need to see some results after a while.
For
And
sure.
also working with a small and medium business helps as well for that.
For sure. And the reason why I was asking about small and medium-sized businesses, from my understanding too, is the available resources they don't have, especially small and medium-sized business, have the available resources as a large corporation or enterprise environment. So having someone like you to be efficient too on the ERP plan and the actual implementation can help too, from my understanding. So
Yeah.
you look at being cost effective, having the right resources in place, making sure if they need consultants, being cost effective, that will really help that plan to make sure they're efficient right across the board and not spend extra money that they don't have to, and can use that money into other projects.
Yes, true. So that aspect as well is important. A small and medium company, or small or medium company, would maybe not have 20 people that they can put full time on a project for 6 months.
Right.
That will certainly not be possible. That's also when I was talking about having more impact and more influence. And I use the word influence in a positive way, is that you really get to know what happens inside the company, and the impact of your decision is directly visible.
Right.
Whereas with a huge company that has factories all over the world, maybe you don't really directly see as well the impact. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's a key point, is because when you have a mid-sized company, like you said, things are more tangible because they move a lot faster. With like you said, if you worked for a bank or you worked for a pharmaceutical company, even the Ontario government, anything along that line, there's policies, processes, change management, and there's different projects going on all at the same time that has to be put into a certain time frame and timeline that you might plan the project out, but you might not see it out of implementation because the team's actually doing it. If they need you to come in to make any changes, that's when you'll see it. Versus your smaller companies, they need you to start and finish the entire project because it moves so quickly, right? And like you said, you can have more influence in the whole entire process because you're overseeing that project a lot of times with small to medium size to make sure everything gets implemented.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
So I think that's something to clarify when people are thinking about the ERP and their role within the company, small to medium size. It's really that value to have you part of that project, to have you, really kind of from start, if they're thinking about it, to actually implementation, right? When it's an idea or a concept, to have you come in and consult and say, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? How would we plan this out? What would we do? What are the things that we need to look at? And have you engage at that start versus we've already started. It's not going well. Can you help us?
That's a totally different context.
But it does happen, I'm sure, right?
But it does. It definitely does happen, and it's related a little bit to what I was saying before. With the system is live. It's just that people don't really understand how, and it's not a critic of the people.
Right.
It's just that due to various reasons, it just cannot be used by the workforce as it is right now. So maybe you have changes to make to the process, changes to made in terms of just training the people, or changes to made inside the system,
right,
or a mixture of those three elements. But you always need to have process, systems, people. You always need to have that aligned. But that's what you need to keep in mind in your business, and that's not easy because it's a constant gymnastic. It's not.
It's ongoing, right? And I mean, I find that when it comes to cybersecurity, you're always talking about the new technologies, new solutions, and then you're talking about like some of the older solutions that people have implemented and how, one, you can work with those solutions with the new technology. So there's some sort of hybrid approach, or looking at migration, talking about kind of the newest, greatest things that are out there. If you're like talking about CASB, which is cloud security, you're talking about, NDR, which is network detection response. You're always talking about the newest, greatest things, but how do they work with it? Like you said, people, places,
people, processes, and systems. So always align those three together.
Right. And we talk about people, places, right, and systems, right? Because what happens, you have to secure the building, right? If you don't secure the building, doesn't matter how much security you have. If someone just walks through the front door, they walk out with your server, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you pay on a firewall or a SIM or anything like that. If I just open the front door and go in with a push cart, put your server on a push cart, put it in my van, I'm gone, right? So I've heard horror stories when I've gone to courses where security experts have talked about where someone would walk in with a Dell shirt and a clipboard and say, I'm here to manage your server, that I've got a work order. And they'd go, okay, it's just in the back there. And they'd literally take a dolly and take it out.
Unbelievable.
and they're like, okay, let me sign off. And then the guy stole like a server, right? But it happens, right? Just all these security things. So what are some of the things that you're talking about right now as we're going through COVID-19? What are things that you would recommend potential clients or listen to should be looking at right now?
Um, I will related to there's one thing that I have in mind right now related to choosing or implementing an ERP, and I think it's a bit related as well, valid as well for in the cybersecurity for cybersecurity solutions. Is that when you choose a solution, think about the support afterwards.
Okay.
Can you do it internally, or will you be married as well to other consultants or consultant companies, because no one will be able to maintain the system in-house. And as well, you are talking about the latest and greatest solutions in cybersecurity, but what happens whenever there are upgrades? Do you also need to send your employees for a $5,000, $10,000 training?
Right.
Or it can just be managed internally, or the training is pretty fast, pretty simple.
Right.
That's also a factor that is very important
Okay.
right now. One of the things that I'm working on right now is and that's totally related to COVID-19
Yeah.
and changing
Yeah.
your business model, is to try to bring more and more of my services, just repackage the expertise into a service that can be delivered online.
Okay.
So being able to, and now I'm starting to have discussions with prospects that are not necessarily in Canada or in Montreal, but prospect with whom we can have that an initial discussion about an ERP or a CRM that they are thinking about. So we talk business requirements, and we are doing that remotely. So that's one thing as well that I start right now.
Well, that's actually a good point. I mean, and I want to kind of address that. What we're seeing because of this pandemic, in some, it's terrible, like kind of the things that are going on around the world, but we're also seeing how business are and people are evolving, right? They're adapting. And like you're saying, now you're looking at how can you be more efficient and create systems that now you can consult online. So like we're doing right now, we're doing a Zoom conversation, but doing
Exactly.
consultants through Zoom, having project management tools like Teamwork. I'm trying to think of the Trilio, all these different types of project management tools that you can start to run projects of, right? And all these tools, like if you're doing Google Docs, Evernote, for documentation and being able to make notes and all that, like all these things now cloud-based, available that you could do it anywhere around the world, is now kind of changing how people are thinking about business from, I've been talking about like even health practitioners, how are doing now. You see personal trainers doing Facebook Lives, right? You see like, nutritionists.
Meditation being done online as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And then now businesses are starting to look at from all different levels of, can we be more efficient? Can we do things now more cost effective remotely, off site? Right. And I know on a security standpoint, one of the challenges with companies is now their attack surface is bigger, but now how do they secure that is one of the conversations I'm hearing, but it's starting to kind of open up the doors of having these conversations more. And you just brought that up for your business, is now you set up your systems. Not only do you help yourself as your business, but now the potential of helping clients globally now opens up.
Yes, indeed. So that's one of the current things that I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
As well, I don't know if we were going to bring that up later in the interview, but I also have my own podcast. It's
Mm-hmm.
on it's very related. It's on about B2B consulting, and it's the name of the podcast is Consulting Lifestyle.
Right.
And there are a few solo episodes, but I usually interview B2B consultants that have stories to share, their business model, their client acquisition strategies, etc. So
Now
that's
can
also something.
they find your podcast off your website?
Yeah, so they will, so on at erphappy.com there will be a link, but the most simple thing is the website of the podcast. So if maybe you can put that in the show notes, or for the people that are
Yeah.
watching, consulting lifestyle in one word, .fm.
.fm. Okay, yeah. So what I'll do, guys, if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about his podcast about consulting lifestyle, kind of the B2B relationship, I'll put that actually in the description below. So where you're listening to this or watching this, yeah, just click on that below and you'll be able to go directly to the podcast and learn a little bit more information of kind of your stories and what's going on in the industry. I think it's great to kind of have access to, what's the real information, what are people really dealing with.
Yes, yes, yes. It's important. A shift is happening. The impacts are a bit different depending on the industries, or depending on maybe inside the IT industry the project that you're working on. But the shift will happen anyway.
Right, for
So
sure.
you have to be you have to be ready.
Yeah, and you have to be dynamic to be able to go in it. Now, we've covered kind of a lot of the questions that I had. Was there anything that you wanted to cover, anything that you wanted to share with, our audience about, ERP and just kind of what's going on in the industry?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, listening to some of the episodes that you have made,
Mhm.
I kind of think that in your audience you also have people that are thinking about starting a career, or just starting a career in the cyber security industry, right?
For sure, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe just an advice in terms of career choices. I haven't made the choice to be in the cybersecurity industry, but that doesn't matter. I think when you think about when you think about starting in an industry, you just have to, honestly, you have to think about what type of day you want to spend, with whom you want to spend it, and how do you want to make your money, your revenue, even if you start as an employee. So when you think about the daily life of a cybersecurity consultant, and there are different consultants, or the daily life of an ERP consultant, you will know that it's very common to have to travel somewhere to your clients from a Monday to Thursday. So this is what usually happen. It will happen less right now. So there will be definitely more work that will be done remotely, or from home. But what you have to think is that your daily life is being at the, I don't want to use at the mercy, but uh, your client has to like you on a daily basis.
Right.
You have to satisfy the client. And sometimes satisfying the client is not necessarily being the very, very best consultant. Of course, if you're the best consultant, it will help, and usually everybody will be satisfied. But you also have sometimes to deal with the people aspect of your project. It can happen that someone maybe just doesn't like to work with you, and that will impact the way you will be evaluated by the clients, and then the way you will be evaluated by your superior in your consulting company. So working in consulting, doing B2B services is pretty hard, because businesses spend money on you.
Right.
They don't want to waste it.
Right.
uh, that's difficult. I mean, if you provide a wrong, I don't know, if you sell a wrong soap, I have a choice. I can just buy another soap. But if I make a 6-figure, 7-figure contract with a cybersecurity company, and you screw up, man, maybe my job is on the line.
Right.
So I'm very angry. So it's a consulting is a lot of client service. So don't think that it is only solely based on your hard knowledge. There is a
So,
lot of the
so
client service part.
yeah, so let's kind of clarify that. There's their technical skills that you're talking about, your knowledge and kind of to do the job. Like if you're a pen tester or anything like that, or ERP, and the systems and the process and all that. But you're talking about, which I agree, is the soft skills, building up relationship, building up rapport, delivering on client expectation and overcoming objections and challenges, right? And making sure that you don't deliver just to one person, but the entire team, especially if you're a consultant,
Yeah.
right? These are important aspects. and soft skills that you need to have to be a really good consultant, because if anyone has something bad to say about you that could, like you said, hinder the relationship of that contract, or just stop that relationship all in total right there, right? Because they're hiring you not just to do the job, but not cause conflict, right? Because they want you to be efficient. You're coming in as an expert. We want to make sure it gets done efficiently. We want to make sure you work with the team well. And then as managers or senior level people, I don't want to have to worry about this. But if I hear complaints, if I hear something there's a conflict, okay, what's going on? I don't have time for this. I'm working on these other 12 projects. You're supposed to come in and do this, especially as a consultant. That's what their expectations. So you bring up a really great point, is make sure you develop the soft skills, your tactical communication, how to resolve, issues and work through problems, right? And I tell people this, one of the soft skills is learn how to listen twice and speak once, and let go of your ego. If someone is coming in the sense of they're frustrated, they're angry, whatever, sit back and go, what can I do to help? Are they angry about you? Are they angry about a situation, whatever that may be? Sometimes, and a lot of times I find it's not really about you. It's about something else. And you're the consultant, you're there. They want you to solve it. Sometimes they're just so wound up that, you're the first person. Like if anyone's ever worked at a help desk, when someone calls and there's something wrong with the product or the solution, they're yelling at you, but you didn't develop it. You didn't do it, but you gotta learn that, okay, how can I help you? I can understand you're upset. What can I do? No different from a consultant. And you got to put yourself back there, because I think sometimes a hard thing with consultants is you get this level of expertise, but you forget about who you used to be and how hard it was to get to that point. And you're working still with just people. I'm not this senior level engineer expert, right? And can't relate to people. I was that help desk person. I get, when you're frustrated, you're angry, and you're getting all that. So putting on multiple hats, being able to do that.
Yeah, very good, very good point. So, for the people that have consultants that have progressed and forget that they were apprentice before, indeed, and maybe not also something that happens that I see a lot is, and it's hard because we talk about technology and technology solutions, but it's not to drown your client with your jargon.
Right.
So sometimes the client is completely lost, and they feel they don't want to be. It's not good if you make your client feel ignorant or stupid. It's not good. You really have to always try to make it simple, easy to understand. Let's not overvaluing the complexity of stuff.
Right. Or empower them, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Because you want to empower them with that information. If I'm talking about, like, for example, for me, a security system, I want them to feel confident that they know what's going on, versus, well, this system connects to this system, and this is type of encryption, it's two-factor, and they're going, okay, hold on a second here. There's two systems. Okay, when did the two systems come up? No, we'll talk about that later. And then you go on these high level conversations. You want them empowered to say, okay, so there's two systems that we're going to be connected to your network. One's external, one's remote. There's going to have two-factor authentication. You with me so far? Yeah, okay, I get it. So how they communicate? They're communicating this way. Perfect. So, do you have any questions? Is there anything else that, I can answer for you that, you feel that you get this, understand that? And that's our job as consultants, is to empower them, that they feel that they're the driving force. They're the champion of driving this project, right?
Yes, totally, totally agree. And and the win of the client has to be even more important for us than the client himself.
Right.
We have to care about the success of the project, or the success of the solution, or the change that the client is undergoing.
Yeah.
We really have to be to own that.
Right.
And they will feel it.
Yeah.
They will feel it when you really want to succeed.
Something I think is a key soft skill, just to remind everyone as a consultant, when you're working with, your champions, the people that are from the company, right? Remember, it's about them. It's not about me coming in. I'm a security expert. Look at me and what I did and how I did this. No, if it's John Doe, look at John Doe. See what John Doe and how John Doe implemented this and really planned this out. I'm just here to help him. I'm just, I'm just kind of an asset for him. When you empower John Doe, like that key person, it helps everyone else around. John Doe starts to work better with you, more project. He knows, with his senior level team, he's shining, he's getting everything delivered, and he's got the right team behind him, right? And that's kind of the key factor when a consultant. I've seen a few subset of consultants where it's about them, and it creates conflict, it creates challenge. But the really good ones, the majority they're out there, make it about their client, make their client the winner of the project, like you're saying, and make them shine. And they're just kind of that asset that's helping them and help, what else do you need? What else can I help you with? What else information? Do you have any questions for me, that I can help you with? And those are the consultants that you see shine, because the guys that are hiring them know you're going to help me look good. You're going to make sure this project is efficient. You're going to make sure I meet my budget. You're going to make sure that, through my roadmap, if I need to do 2 or 3 projects this year, you're going to help me get those completed so I can focus on something else, because I trust you. And I trust that you're going to help me look good, because when I go and have to go for my review or my management and say, what were my deliveries? What my key performance indicators, how I did that. This is what I did, and this is how I delivered it. They're going to go, awesome. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. Yes. Totally agree.
Right.
Totally agree. And I think, I think that's the main things that I wanted, that I wanted to add as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was really good to have this conversation, really talk about what's going on in the industry, talk about ERP so people kind of get a better understanding of what ERP is and what to look for. And then again, now sharing your podcast, the new podcast is coming out, like for yourself, your consulting lifestyle, which is kind of a B2B relationship, and the challenges and the joys of being, in the industry. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed, and I hope let's do it again. Let's do it again soon.
For sure. And I'm sure through this COVID-19 scenario, we'll have conversations, and then, and then after this, we'll catch up after it's all said and done and kind of see what you're working on.
Yeah, perfect. And maybe just a reminder for the audience. So I am reachable, as I said, on the consultinglifestyle.fm for my podcast, and my company is an ERP company, ERP Happy. So I will also.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And guys, I just want you to remember, all this information is going to be down below in the description notes. So make sure you click on the links, do your research, ask any questions that you have. It's amazing to have these resources available to you, just again, so you can ask and learn as you're going through your career, and maybe even some business projects that you're looking for through COVID-19 and then after. So it's amazing to have these resources available. So I just wanted to remind you guys, don't forget, software is hackable, being connected is vulnerable. I'll see you next Daily Cyber.